Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Mindfulness for Bipolar Disorder: How Mindfulness and Neuroscience Can Help You Manage Your Bipolar Symptoms, by William R. Marchand, M.D. Narrated by Matthew Boston. Publisher's note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to tables and figures present in the print and e-book formats of the book. Introduction. This audiobook is for anyone who suffers from bipolar disorder. As you know, this illness can be very difficult to treat. Traditional treatments such as medication and psychotherapy are effective. However, many people continue to experience depression, mood elevations, and other symptoms despite receiving appropriate care. Unfortunately, very few people with bipolar disorder are completely symptom-free as a result of conventional treatments alone. That is the bipolar puzzle: how to live well with a chronic condition that doesn't always respond well to treatment. To live with your illness, it is critical for you to use as many recovery strategies as possible. The aim of this audiobook is to provide another effective tool for your bipolar recovery toolbox. That tool is mindfulness meditation. A mindful approach to bipolar symptoms. Are you ready to try a new approach to living with bipolar disorder? The mindful approach to bipolar symptoms is radically different from traditional treatments. By practicing meditation, you can learn how to be present with your bipolar symptoms rather than try to get rid of them. Doing this will, in turn, make your symptoms less intense. This may seem counterintuitive, but it works. Our minds normally respond to symptoms with automatic thinking patterns that actually make them worse. In contrast, unpleasant emotional states tend to become less intense and fade away when we let them be. Learning how to do this can totally change your relationship with your illness. Mindfulness isn't about being passive, though. Once you see and experience reality as it is through mindful awareness, you have the freedom to act. Mindfulness is about liberating yourself from habitual thinking patterns and behaviors that keep you stuck. Scientific research has shown that mindfulness is helpful for people with bipolar disorder, and that meditation practice can rewire the bipolar brain. In this audiobook, I will guide you through the process of developing a mindfulness meditation practice that will help you live well with bipolar disorder. The idea for this book originated with my own practice of mindfulness in the Soto Zen Buddhist tradition. In this tradition, we aim to sit in open awareness, watching phenomena arise and pass. By doing so, we see that everything is impermanent, including our own thoughts and emotions. Like clouds in the sky, they arise and pass. We also see that our minds tend to cling to certain things, often negative experiences and feelings. Through awareness of the present moment, we can notice our tendency to hold on to negativity, and we can let it go. We can relax in the moment without needing to fix or change anything. That ability has helped me to fully appreciate my own life, moment by moment. The Zen tradition also has a strong emphasis on compassion. And while there are many ways to practice compassion, we focus on sharing the transformative power of mindfulness with others. This ties in with my work as a psychiatrist, where over many years of working with bipolar patients, I've recognized the need for more creative tools to reduce their suffering. That recognition led me to start teaching mindfulness classes for people with bipolar disorder, and now it has led to this book. Writing this book is an extension of my work as a mindfulness teacher and my personal mindfulness practice. Articulating the concepts of mindfulness to help you solve the bipolar puzzle has deepened my own understanding and practice. What is mindfulness meditation? Meditation can sound mysterious, but it is simply the process of focusing your attention rather than letting your mind wander. You can be mindful at any time or in any place. For example, during daily life, you can focus all of your attention on any activity, such as washing your hair or taking out the garbage. During formal meditation, the focus can be on the breath or on physical sensations. The aim is to be fully present in each moment, feeling the sensations, hearing the sounds, and seeing the sights. This sounds simple, and it is a very simple concept, but it is a skill each of us has to learn. Our minds don't want to stay focused on one topic. They tend to wander and ruminate. Try this simple experiment. Sit in a comfortable position and close your eyes. Start counting your breaths. Count 1 for the first inhalation-exhalation cycle, 2 for the next cycle, and so on. Count to 10 and then start over. Do this for about 3 minutes. If your attention wanders and you lose count, then start over with 1. Notice what happens. For most people, the mind immediately starts to drift. We start to think about the past or the future rather than stay focused on the breath. Sometimes we may not be able to count beyond 2 or 3 before the mind meanders down some path or other. In mindfulness language, this tendency of the mind to wander is referred to as autopilot, because the mind automatically starts to think about the past or the future. Most of the time, you don't make a conscious decision to think about something. Your mind goes there on its own. Autopilot isn't good or bad. It's just how the mind works. However, many of these automatic thinking patterns can be less than helpful. An example that may be familiar to you is having repetitive thoughts that are excessively self-critical. Another unhelpful thinking pattern is spending hours turning something over and over in your mind when you are upset. You can be carried away by these thoughts without even realizing it. Autopilot thinking patterns are often associated with unpleasant emotions, such as sadness, anger, or anxiety. Most importantly, these patterns have been shown to intensify mood symptoms and to contribute to anxiety, stress, and depression. The good news is that there is a solution for the problem of autopilot. It is called mindfulness meditation. That is what this audiobook is about. Mindfulness is a type of meditation during which you focus your attention on the present moment. As best you can, you keep your awareness on the sights, sounds, and physical sensations that are occurring right now, in this very moment. This is in contrast to autopilot, which is always fixated on the past or future. When practicing mindfulness, you experience thoughts and emotions, but instead of being carried away by the never-ending torrent of cognitions and feelings that can flood your mind, you experience your thoughts and emotions as an observer. By developing a mindfulness practice, you can spend more time with your attention in the present moment, just watching the deluge. Mindfulness meditation practice for bipolar disorder. Living our lives more mindfully has many benefits. This is true for everyone, but a mindfulness practice can be especially helpful for the symptoms of bipolar disorder. As you know, bipolar disorder causes episodes of both depression and mania. Symptoms of depressed mood include sadness, the inability to experience pleasure, negative thinking, and disturbances of sleep and appetite. In contrast, mania involves excessively happy or irritable moods, high energy, rapid speech, and out-of-character behaviors. Those with bipolar disorder often also experience anxiety, an excessive or inappropriate fear response, irritability, and negative thinking. Bipolar disorder also can cause unreasonable beliefs about the self. Finally, because of bipolar disorder, you may find it difficult to experience joy and satisfaction in your life. A mindfulness meditation practice can help you manage these symptoms and be happier. Your 8-step mindfulness recovery plan. This audiobook provides an 8-step mindfulness recovery plan to help you manage the symptoms of bipolar disorder and lead a more joyful and satisfying life. Part 1 explains how mindfulness can help you. Part 2 of this audiobook provides the steps you can take to develop your own mindfulness practice. Here is a preview. Step 1. Your daily meditation practice. Sitting meditation is the foundation of a mindfulness practice. In Chapter 4, you will start your bipolar recovery plan by learning how to practice sitting meditation on a daily basis. Step 2. Targeting bipolar depression. Autopilot thinking patterns often bring on or worsen bipolar depression. Sometimes negative thinking patterns lead to feelings of depression, or it can be the other way around. Feeling sad can bring on autopilot. Either way, autopilot thinking patterns and symptoms of depression almost always end up in a vicious cycle, with each making the other worse. The solution is to move into a mental state of mindful awareness of the present moment. In Chapter 5, we will learn to use a short meditation, the Mindful Minute, to move out of autopilot and into mindfulness when you are feeling depressed. Step 3. Calming the anxiety of bipolar disorder. You experience anxiety when your fear response is malfunctioning. Either you feel anxious for no reason, an out-of-the-blue attack of panic, or your response to a given situation is greater than the situation deserves. You may experience excessive worry and anxiety in response to stress. The brain's autopilot thinking response to anxiety almost always makes it worse. Chapter 6 will teach you to sit in meditation with anxiety and let it fade away. Step 4. Observing your thinking patterns. People with bipolar disorder tend to think negatively about life in general and about themselves in particular, and these automatic thinking patterns can increase depression and anxiety. In Chapter 7, you will learn to become more skillful at being a mindful observer of your negative thoughts about life and yourself. In meditation, you can stay in the moment and watch your thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. As you watch your thoughts, you can see how they are often irrational and illogical. Watching them gives you distance from them. Step 5. Working with bipolar mania and desire. One of the most troublesome symptoms of mania is intense desire. This can lead to out-of-character behaviors, such as excessive shopping, substance use, and sexual promiscuity. Chapter 8 builds upon previous chapters and extends your mindfulness practice to being present with desire. Rather than feel the need to act on cravings, you can learn how to watch these feelings as they come and go. However, getting to this point takes considerable practice. Step 6. Managing irritability and anger. Irritability and anger are common symptoms of bipolar disorder and can occur during either depression or mania. Of course, feeling frustrated and upset from time to time is normal, but as with excessive desire, too much irritability can cause problems in your life. In Chapter 9, you will learn to use mindfulness to manage anger and irritability. Step 7. Rethinking your bipolar self. You may be overly self-critical during depression and have an inflated sense of self during mania. Chapter 10 will help you develop a new relationship with your thoughts about yourself. You will discover through mindful awareness that you are perfect in each moment and that there is nothing that you need to fix or change. Step 8. Being bipolar and happy. Autopilot thinking can mislead you into believing that happiness is based upon external circumstances, that you'll be happy when you get this or that, new car, new phone. When something or other happens, you get a raise at work, go on vacation, or maybe when you get rid of something that you have but don't want, a debt, a conflict with your partner. Mindfulness teaches you that the mind is never satisfied. Nothing you can get, or get rid of, will make you happy. Chapter 11 will show you how true joy and happiness exist in each and every moment, right now, rather than at some point in the future. By learning to stay in the present moment, you become able to see and experience the joy that was there all along. How to use this audiobook. The chapters in this audiobook are meant to build on each other, so you should listen to them in order, starting with Chapter 1. Part 1 helps you prepare for the mindfulness practices that you'll begin in Part 2. Chapter 1 explains how mindfulness can help those with bipolar disorder, and includes a review of the evidence for the effectiveness of mindfulness-based interventions. Chapter 2 covers the neuroscience underlying bipolar disorder and underlying mindfulness. Chapter 3 covers some basic concepts of mindfulness meditation, including the need for self-compassion. In Part 2, it's important to do all the meditation exercises, practicing them as well as you can. An appendix provides some other meditations that you may want to try. In addition, you may find guided meditations to be helpful, especially as you first start to practice mindfulness. Therefore, guided audio versions of all the meditations in Part 2 and of 2 meditations in the appendix are available for you to download at newharbinger.com/31854. This audiobook is based on my experience teaching mindfulness to individuals with bipolar disorder, as well as on my own personal meditation practice. In most chapters, you'll find stories about real people with bipolar disorder who are using mindfulness to live well with it. These stories come from my work as a psychiatrist and mindfulness teacher, and I hope you'll find them inspiring as well as instructive. The stories are all true, but details have been extensively changed so that no story represents an actual person. This audiobook is also based upon research. I've also included a list of suggested reading material and a glossary of important terms. You may have already taken or be planning to take an in-person mindfulness class. If so, this audiobook will complement what you learn. Taking a class is a great idea, but you also can use this audiobook without a class. It will provide you with everything you need to develop a mindfulness practice. You also may want to consider joining fellow mindfulness practitioners online for support and information at williamrmarchandmd.com. What you can expect. Mindfulness is a powerful tool. However, it is important to have realistic expectations about it. Your meditation practice won't cure bipolar disorder or keep you from ever having episodes of depression or mania. However, with mindfulness, you can expect to have fewer episodes, and you can expect the episodes that you do have to be less severe. By spending more time in mindful awareness and less time on autopilot, you also can experience more joy in your life. This audiobook and your mindfulness meditation practice are not intended to replace any of your other treatments, though your meditation practice may help your other treatments work better. In particular, mindfulness meditation can help you get more from psychotherapy. This is because psychotherapy is about change. In order to change, it is necessary to first become fully aware of your own autopilot-driven thinking patterns and behaviors. Mindfulness helps you see these clearly in the moment as they occur. Importantly, you learn to observe these patterns and behaviors without self-judgment. Non-judgmental awareness of how our minds work is the key to change. Without exception, everyone who has completed one of my mindfulness classes has found it to be helpful. Many have found it to be life-changing. But while mindfulness is a deceptively simple concept, being mindful is harder than it looks. It is a skill that anyone can learn, but it takes practice. What does this mean for you? If you want to add this tool to your recovery toolbox, it means practicing the methods in this audiobook. You will have to practice meditation almost every day. Daily practice is best. That said, none of us ever practices as much as we want to. Just do the best you can and always have compassion for yourself. Mindfulness is experiential. Using this audiobook is like reading a menu. Practicing meditation is like eating the meal. I am honored to take this nourishment with you. Let's get started. Part 1. Getting Ready to Practice. Chapter 1. The Missing Piece in the Bipolar Puzzle. This chapter discusses how and why a mindfulness practice can help you live better with bipolar disorder. It opens with a brief review of the language of bipolar disorder. Before getting started, however, I want to acknowledge that you know more about bipolar disorder than I ever will. You live with it every day. My purpose is not to tell you all about bipolar disorder, but rather to make sure that we are speaking the same language. Bipolar terminology can be complex and confusing, so this is a good place to begin. Talking about bipolar disorder. You may have been diagnosed with a subtype of bipolar disorder. There are 3 primary diagnostic subtypes: bipolar 1 disorder, bipolar 2 disorder, and cyclothymic disorder. There are additional diagnostic categories for bipolar symptoms that are due to another medical condition, as well as other categories for bipolar symptoms that do not meet all of the diagnostic criteria for one of the three primary subtypes. Because there is more than one bipolar condition, the term spectrum is commonly used to refer to the entire group of bipolar disorders. The information provided in this audiobook is for anyone with bipolar disorder, regardless of the specific type, and the words bipolar disorder and bipolar spectrum will be used interchangeably. Bipolar mood episodes. Bipolar spectrum conditions are mood disorders. People with bipolar disorder experience two kinds of mood abnormalities: major depressive episodes and periods of mood elevations. In other words, people with bipolar disorder experience both poles of the mood spectrum. That's where the term bipolar comes from. Table 1.1 lists the symptoms required for a diagnosis of a bipolar depressive episode. Episodes of mood elevations are called manic episodes, if severe, or hypomanic episodes, if milder. Table 1.2 lists the symptoms required for a diagnosis of a manic episode, and Table 1.3 lists the symptoms required for a diagnosis of a hypomanic episode. Table 1.1 Diagnostic criteria for a bipolar depressive episode. 5 or more of the following symptoms must have been present for at least 2 weeks and include either depressed mood or loss of interest and pleasure. These symptoms must occur most of the day, nearly every day, and cause significant distress or impairment. Depressed mood. Markedly diminished interest or pleasure in most activities. Increased or decreased weight or appetite. Increased sleep or insomnia. Increased or decreased motor activity. Fatigue or loss of energy. Feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt. Diminished ability to think or concentrate, or indecisiveness. Recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. Table 1.2 Diagnostic criteria for a manic episode. A manic episode is a period of abnormally elevated or irritable mood, along with increased activity, lasting at least 1 week, or any duration if symptoms are so serious that hospitalization is required. Psychotic symptoms may be present. Manic symptoms are present most of the day, nearly every day, and interfere with your ability to function. They must include 3 or more of the following symptoms, or 4 or more of these symptoms if your mood is irritable but not abnormally elevated, that represent a noticeable change from your usual behavior. Inflated self-esteem or grandiosity. Decreased need for sleep. More talkative or feeling pressure to keep talking. Thoughts going faster than normal. Distractibility. Increased goal-directed activity. Excessive involvement in pleasurable activities that have a high potential for painful consequences, such as buying sprees or sexual indiscretions. Table 1.3 Diagnostic criteria for a hypomanic episode. A hypomanic episode is a period lasting at least 4 days of abnormally elevated or irritable mood, along with increased activity, with symptoms present most of the day, nearly every day. Symptoms do not limit your ability to function, require hospitalization, or include psychosis, but they represent a clear change in behavior from normal and are obvious to friends and family. They must include 3 or more of the following symptoms, or 4 or more if your mood is irritable but not abnormally elevated, that present a noticeable change from your usual behavior. Inflated self-esteem or grandiosity. Decreased need for sleep. More talkative or feeling pressure to keep talking. Thoughts going faster than normal. Distractibility. Increased goal-directed activity. Excessive involvement in pleasurable activities that have a high potential for painful consequences, such as buying sprees or sexual indiscretions. Bipolar subtypes. For a diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder, you must have had at least 1 manic episode. Almost everyone diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder also experiences depressive episodes, and hypomanic episodes, and many people with bipolar I disorder often experience even milder mood elevations as well. In this audiobook, mood elevations is a general term referring to episodes of manic or hypomanic symptoms, as well as to episodes that are even milder. A diagnosis of bipolar II disorder requires at least one episode of major depression and at least one hypomanic episode. But manic episodes are not part of the picture. If you were diagnosed with bipolar II disorder and then experienced a manic episode, your diagnosis would change to bipolar I. Cyclothymic disorder is when there are episodes of mood elevations that do not meet the full criteria for a hypomanic or a manic episode, and there are periods of depression that do not meet the full criteria for a major depressive episode. Additionally, to meet the diagnostic criteria for cyclothymic disorder, the mood episodes must be numerous over a 2-year period for adults or over 1 year for children and adolescents. Table 1.4 lists the diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder, bipolar I disorder, bipolar II disorder, and cyclothymic disorder. Table 1.4 Diagnostic criteria for mood disorders. Disorder: major depressive disorder. Required: major depressive episode. May also have mild depressive episodes. May not have manic or hypomanic episodes. Disorder: bipolar I disorder. Required: manic episode. May also have depression and hypomania. May not have non-applicable. Disorder: bipolar II disorder. Required: major depression and hypomania. May also have mild depressive episodes. May not have manic episodes. Disorder: cyclothymic disorder. Required: mild episodes of depression and mood elevations. May also have not applicable. May not have major depressive, manic, or hypomanic episodes. Bipolar disorder over time. Bipolar disorder is considered a chronic condition. Chronic means that it is long-lasting. Many other medical conditions are chronic, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Like most other chronic conditions, bipolar disorder is considered a lifelong illness. Once someone gets this condition, it does not go away on its own, and it requires long-term treatment. Unfortunately, there is currently no cure for bipolar disorder. Therefore, the aim of treatment is remission of symptoms. In other words, the goal is to get rid of any current mood symptoms and then to prevent relapse. This chapter will describe conventional treatments for bipolar disorder and then introduce the benefits of adding a mindfulness practice to your treatment program, as a client named Eve did. Her story will help to illustrate the challenges of diagnosing and treating bipolar disorder. Eve's story. Eve has bipolar II disorder. Her first episode at age 17 was a major depressive episode. This episode was severe and caused significant impairment. Before becoming depressed, she had been an honors student and a star player on her high school volleyball team. Once she became depressed, her grades suffered, and she quit the volleyball team. She no longer had much energy or motivation to do anything. She slept too much. She lost her ability to experience pleasure, and her mood was profoundly low. She ultimately attempted suicide and was subsequently hospitalized. Eve's depression was rapidly followed by several hypomanic episodes, and she was diagnosed with bipolar II when she was 18. Since then, Eve has never had a mood elevation that meets the criteria for a manic episode, which is why her diagnosis has remained bipolar II. Eve also has milder mood episodes, which could give the appearance of cyclothymic disorder. The difference is that Eve has had at least one episode that meets the criteria for a full mood episode. Today, Eve is 40 and experiences very good control of her symptoms. She has only short, mild episodes of depression and has not had a mood elevation for several years. Her depressive episodes usually last a few days at most and come on only every few months. However, this was not always true. Like many people with bipolar illness,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?